The Quest 3 and 3S have been out for a while now, and a question I've been hearing a lot lately is whether they're still worth buying. With the Quest 4 being just around the corner, evolving gaming trends and shifts in how people are using their headsets, it's more important than ever to know what you're actually getting. So why don't we kick things off with content? Because in my opinion, content has always been king. Don't get me wrong, specs are great, but if there's nothing compelling to play, you just sound like a spreadsheet manager. For new buyers, the current Quest library is solid, especially with recent hits like Batman Arkham Shadow, Behemoth, and Asgard's Wrath. Thanks to the headsets using a fairly powerful chipset, developers have been able to push gameplay and visuals to an impressive level, slowly blurring the lines between mobile, console, and even PC VR. Meta acquiring multiple gaming studios has been a major win for Quest users, delivering most of its flagship titles. I'm sure we all agree that the pace and number of releases from them could be a lot better, but I think Meta has learned some hard lessons, like announcing GTA San Andreas VR way too early, which led to a lot of high expectations and huge disappointment in the community. While there is no shortage of great indie games to back this up, the VR market has been facing some serious challenges. What stands out is seeing high-quality titles not getting the sales and attention they used to, leading to some well-known VR studios to go bankrupt, shrink, pivot to free-to-play models, going hybrid, or focus on more traditional pancake games. Meta themselves closed Ready at Dawn, the studio behind Lone Echo and Echo Arena, and does not seem to be doing any more dedicated gaming showcases. YouTuber Live Open Mic recently did a great breakdown of how serious the situation has gotten.
The news broke that Meta is going through another round of layoffs. That is their second round of layoffs in 2025. And then add to that, Telsa Interactive has closed their offices, Orbis VR, VR's first real MMORPG, has shut down entirely, and there have been layoffs at Fast Travel Games, Playside, In Dreams, Soul Assembly, SideQuest, and Cyan.
Well, many factors contribute to this shift. One of the main reasons for this to happen is that the audience has simply changed. With the new Quest lineup, especially the more affordable 3S, and the Quest 2 still being a hot item on the second-hand market, the user base nowadays mostly exists out of primarily kids and teens, many whom received a headset from their parents or saved up to buy one themselves. This age demographic seems to love casual indies and online free-to-play experiences like Gorilla Tag, Animal Company, and Roblox. These games are massively popular and have completely taken over the Quest platform, with new ones releasing daily and sometimes pulling in significant revenue through microtransactions and racking up far more reviews than many major AAA titles combined. This younger generation embracing VR and pretty much ruling over the Quest kingdom is what might secure its future. Seeing them willing to throw on a chunky headset every day could be seen as a sign of long-term growth. You would be surprised how many companies in the past couldn't stop adults and their headsets from ending up in the cupboard after just a few months of purchase. The younger user base has become, well, so dominant now that many developers who once focused on rich single-player games are now chasing trends, creating free-to-play titles designed to go viral on TikTok or YouTube. Influencers like J-Man Curly and others are the ones that decide what the next popular game is gonna be. Creating a high-quality game with great storytelling, gameplay, and visuals is no longer a guarantee of success, especially when the most active player base isn't necessarily interested in that type of content. As a result, we're seeing fewer games targeted at older users and more content aimed at younger ones. Meta has noticed this upwards trend of social VR too, having lowered the age limit on their platform, offering huge funds for building their metaverse, and decided to heavily integrate Horizon Worlds, giving it a more prominent spot on the store. However, this move has sparked concern among developers, saying they've seen declining sales and discoverability of their own paid games as a result. Another trend I've been seeing is the Quest 3 and 3S being bottlenecked by the continued popularity of the Quest 2 and its booming second-hand market. With a few exceptions here and there, like Ghost Town and Red Matter, most titles are not using the new chipset to its full potential, not just because of smaller budgets, but because developers still have to support the older hardware to make sales. Meta tried to persuade people to jump ship by making flagship titles like Batman VR exclusive to the Quest 3 lineup, but from what I've seen, it didn't have the impact they were hoping for. Phasing out Quest 2 is not possible either, as the user base is simply too large and could result into losing a big chunk of revenue and retention. I think most kids, teens, and their parents are just not that interested in the latest specs or the newest, biggest games. They want the cheapest device that lets them play their favorite indies and free-to-play experiences, so the Quest 2 seems like a logical investment. Now, mixed reality was one of the biggest selling points for the Quest 3 and 3S, but does it live up to the hype in practice, and is it a reason to buy now? Well, personally, being able to pull up menus, giant video screens, inviting my friends into my living room, and turning my actual house into a video game have changed how I use my headset. But let's not forget, Meta promised way more. At Connect 23, they showed off so-called augments, which were supposed to let you deck out your whole space with things like achievements, props, and even portals. That feature has been seriously delayed, and there is still no roadmap for when or if it's coming. On the bright side, the camera API was recently made public, so devs can finally start building their own cool stuff. And a few MR apps I've played have been super impressive. Really cool ideas that show where this tech could go. Sadly, the downside is that those same studios aren't seeing enough sales to keep pushing the envelope. The young user base doesn't seem to be that keen on mixed reality yet, as most of the top paid and free-to-play titles are still VR, with only a small number of new MR experiences releasing each month. When Meta rebranded from virtual to mixed reality, I expected a way bigger push. Maybe more funding or incentives to get developers creating MR apps. While they did set an early example with light MR elements in titles like Assassin's Creed and Asgard's Wrath, it wasn't something that caught on across the platform. I believe the real potential lies beyond gaming. The foundation is already in place. I think they should try to aim for more lifestyle-focused apps, using the upcoming Horizon OS overhaul to their advantage, so that mixed reality could finally get the boost it needs. I do have to give them credits for the operating system. The progress of Horizon OS has been impressive. If you compare the Quest 3 and 3S at launch to where they're now, it's almost unrecognizable. Meta has been pushing out updates rapidly and sometimes fixing issues and, well, sometimes breaking things, but overall steadily improving. Since the launch of the Apple Vision Pro, Meta seems to be on high alert, with Zuckerberg clearly determined to stay in the race. As a result, the Quest 3 and 3S are far more capable today, with new features rolling out almost monthly. It's great to see a rising tide lifting all boats. So streaming has been one of the main reasons to consider these headsets outside of traditional VR/MR gaming. If you care about media and entertainment, this could be a major reason to pick one up, but also an area where Meta needs to improve. Watching movies or shows is still one of the best experiences. You can create a giant cinema screen anywhere you want. However, the lack of official apps from services like Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Disney Plus is definitely noticeable. Using the browser works, yes, but it seems like a temporary solution, as it misses the full experience. We're talking no native 3D content, themed environments, or offline downloads. With Quest 3 being out for a while, this should have been widely available by now. I really hope Meta pushes harder to bring more streaming partners on board. Their recent collaboration with James Cameron gives me hope that they'll start restructuring Oculus TV, producing more immersive content similar to what we've seen Apple do on Apple TV. Cloud gaming is another major highlight. For buyers who want a portable gaming setup without a full PC or console, this is honestly one of the most underrated strengths. Since the browser's overhaul and Meta's partnership with Microsoft, cloud gaming has become a blast. Personally, I prefer GeForce Now over Xbox Game Pass, but either way, the value is incredible. It's like carrying a giant TV and console in your backpack. Last but not least, let's briefly dive into the hardware, a crucial part of whether a headset is worth it or not. The comfort and Fresnel lenses are still the Quest 3S's weakest points. It's slightly less ergonomic, though that can be fixed with a good third-party strap, like the ones from Bobo VR. But you can't change the fact it will always be a bit less visually appealing than the Quest 3. But unless you're wearing it daily for long sessions, it's a fine trade-off for the price. If you're planning to spend a lot of time with your headset, we're talking daily, then the Quest 3 is still the better bet. Mainly because of its pancake lenses. If you want a full comparison, I would recommend checking out the video in the description below. So to wrap things up, are the Quest 3 and 3S still worth buying? Well, the answer is not as easy as saying yes or no. Let me just sum this up. For younger gamers who want to connect with friends in the most immersive way possible, casual players who like to play a fun indie from time to time, adults who want to socialize on apps such as Horizon, or anyone interested in streaming, fitness, cloud or PC VR gaming, it's still one of the best value for money options out there. It's a bit of a different story for die-hard gamers, for enthusiasts, for the elitists as they call them, who like to see these headsets as their main core gaming device, that love to play new big single-player VR games with strong storytelling and innovative gameplay. In that case, it's a bit more of a mixed bag right now. I think if you go in with realistic expectations and understand the current state of the market like I laid out, they can absolutely deliver a great experience. But if you want a high-quality new big release every month, you may be left disappointed. By the time the Quest 4 launches, rumored for 2026, the Quest 2 will likely be fully phased out, which could have a positive effect on the content offering, but this remains to be seen. I believe the demand for free-to-play content will continue to grow regardless, but as today's kids and teens mature, they may start seeking deeper, more in-depth single-player experiences. Time will tell. So let me know in the comments, do you already own a Quest 3 or 3S? And if so, has it been worth it for you? Or are you still holding out to see what the Quest 4 will bring? I would love to hear your stance on this topic. With that being said, thank you so much for listening to my rambles. Hope they made sense. Leave a like if it did, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, bye bye, see you!